The first bell of the morning rang with the same lazy echo it always had, a metallic reminder that the halls of Crestwood High were far louder, darker, and far more divided than the glossy brochures ever showed. Students swarmed the corridors like chaotic currents, but within that chaos, small pockets of cruelty simmered, led by the notorious trio, Damon, Vince, and Tyler. They weren't the typical bullies defined by heavy fists or loud threats. No, they thrived on humiliation, sabotage, and fear. The arrival of a new teacher that morning gave them a fresh target, and as always, they struck the moment they smelled unfamiliarity. Ms. Alina Reyes stepped into the building with a hopeful heart, carrying lesson plans she stayed up late perfecting. A young teacher with kind eyes and a calm smile, she had moved to Crestwood believing she could make a difference. But her optimism didn't survive more than a few hours. She introduced herself in first period, trying to break the tension with warmth, but the moment she turned her back, crumpled papers flew, whispers hissed, laughter rippled. She pretended not to notice. New teachers always pretended. They always hoped it would settle. They always believed the school staff would back them. Ms. Reyes didn't know yet that Crestwood's administration was fractured, politics-filled, and exhausted, and that the real power on these floors often belonged not to the adults, but to the bullies who roamed unchecked. By lunchtime, rumors about the overly soft new teacher flooded the campus. Damon and his friends had already made their decision. Today, she would learn her place. So when the final bell before noon rang, and Ms. Reyes stepped into the stairwell carrying a stack of textbooks for her next class, the trio waited behind the door, masks of innocence ready to drop at the perfect moment. She never saw the foot that hooked behind her ankle or the shoulder that nudged her with calculated precision. She only felt gravity vanish beneath her. The textbooks flew first, pages fluttering like screams. Then her body followed, tumbling down the narrow concrete steps. A thud. 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 Her breath tore from her throat as she hit the ground hard, her elbow scraping, ankle twisting, vision spinning. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. She didn't know why she hurt so much. She didn't even hear the laughter echoing above her, sharp, cruel, triumphant. Should have watched your step, miss, Damon snickered. The boys vanished before she could lift her head. Ms. Reyes tried to stand, but pain shot through her leg like fire. She dragged herself to a bench, tears gathering not from the injury but from humiliation. Students passed by, some glancing at her with pity, others pretending she didn't exist. That was Crestwood High. Everyone survived alone, but this time, the school had miscalculated because behind a half-open office door, 3 people had seen everything on the security feed of Principal Rowan, the strict veteran exhausted by the school's decline, Associate Principal Mariah Kensington, newer, younger, determined to rebuild what was broken, and Acting Principal Devon Chase, brought in temporarily due to rising violence on campus. 3 leaders. 3 different perspectives. One shared shock. They watched Ms. Reyes fall, they watched the bullies laugh, they watched the students walk past like tragedy was normal. A shared silence filled the office. Then Rowan stood up with a fire in his eyes that had been dim for years. That's it, he said. I'm done pretending this place is under control. Mariah nodded slowly, fists clenched. We shut down this school today. Not tomorrow. Not after a meeting. Today. Devon closed the laptop showing the footage, and we deal with every last one of them. Minutes later, alarms rang across Crestwood High, not fire alarms, but lockdown tones that froze students mid-step. Teachers peeked out of classrooms. Students whispered confusedly. The intercom crackled to life, and Principal Rowan's voice, usually slow and tired, cut through the halls with icy authority, effective immediately. Crestwood High is shut down. All students report to the auditorium. Teachers, remain with your classes. No one leaves. Chaos flickered across the building, but beneath it was something new: fear. Real fear. Somewhere in the nurse's office, Ms. Reyes sat with an ice pack on her swollen ankle, unaware that the 3 principals were about to change the entire school for her, and for the bullies who thought they ruled these halls, their reign was about to end. The auditorium filled with uneasy whispers. Hundreds of students sat shoulder to shoulder, looking around with suspicion and confusion, wondering why 3 principals stood together on the stage, something no one had ever seen before. Principal Rowan stepped forward first, jaw tight, voice steady but vibrating with controlled fury. This school has ignored a growing problem for too long, he began. Today, one of our teachers was injured because of malicious behavior. Not an accident. A targeted attack. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some students knew exactly what it meant. Others knew exactly who it meant. Mariah Kensington stepped forward next, eyes scanning every row, reading guilt, discomfort, denial. We have security footage of the incident, she continued. And not just today's. Weeks of bullying. Harassment. Assault. Theft. Behavior that has turned Crestwood High from a place of learning into a breeding ground for cruelty. The bullies bristled. Damon glared at the stage, his arrogance visibly melting. Vince shifted nervously. Tyler's breathing quickened. Principal Devon Chase took the microphone. Last you 3, he said, looking directly at them, stand up. The entire auditorium turned at once. Snickers vanished. The silence was suffocating. Damon forced a laugh. You can't talk to us like, stand up. The command cracked like thunder. Reluctantly, they rose. A large screen lit up behind the principals. Footage played, the stairwell, the shove, the fall, the laughter. No one breathed. Students stared, horrified. Some covered their mouths. Others whispered, oh my god. I didn't know. I didn't know it was that bad. The bullies looked small suddenly. Exposed. Stripped of the power they'd worn like armor, Principal Rowan stepped forward. This is the last moment Crestwood High tolerates fear as currency. Starting today, this building is closed until further notice. Mandatory workshops, restorative justice sessions, re-evaluations of staff responsibilities, restructuring of student leadership, everything changes. The students murmured in disbelief. A school shutdown was unheard of, Mariah continued. Every student involved in bullying, whether by participating, recording, encouraging, or staying silent, will go through a full intervention program. And as for the 3 responsible for today's incident, Devon finished the sentence, you're suspended. Effective immediately. And you will face the district board. Damon finally snapped, you can't do this. My dad, your father can watch the footage too, Rowan said coldly. Within minutes, officers escorted the boys out of the auditorium as hundreds of eyes followed them. The halls no longer belonged to them. Their empire had crumbled once the auditorium settled. Rowan made a final announcement, to every student who ever felt unsafe here, we see you. We hear you. And this school will become a place you deserve. Crestwood High will rise again, but only after we rebuild it with accountability, compassion, and courage. After the assembly, Ms. Reyes, limping but determined, stood at the entrance of the auditorium. Students approached her, apologizing, promising change, admitting guilt. She felt overwhelmed, but for the first time since stepping into Crestwood, she felt hope. The principals approached her. This begins a new era, Rowan said gently, and it begins because of you, Mariah added. You deserve a safe place to teach, Devon concluded. Ms. Reyes smiled, eyes glossy, and they deserve a safe place to learn. Outside the building, news cameras gathered, parents demanded answers, and the district prepared statements. Crestwood High had fallen today, but in its fall, it rose in a way that would be remembered for years. In the aftermath, the principals stood on the steps of the school as the sun sank behind them, knowing they had done something rare in the world of education, something bold, something that would change lives. For Ms. Reyes, for the students, for the future. As dusk settled over Crestwood High, the campus stood in a warm, orange glow, quiet, peaceful, unrecognizable from the chaotic battlefield it had been just one day earlier. The walkways, once echoing with taunts and tension, now carried soft conversations and healing footsteps. Teachers stayed late, organizing new plans. Students gathered in small groups, discussing the day's revelations with an unfamiliar sense of unity. Something rare had happened at Crestwood, the truth had finally defeated fear. Ms. Alina Reyes stood at the top of the stairs, the same stairs that had once sent her tumbling, and looked out over the courtyard. Her ankle still ached, but her heart felt steady, stronger. The place that had hurt her was transforming because of her. She gently touched the railing, then exhaled, letting go of the memory of the fall behind her. The 3 principals approached quietly. Rowan, stern but now lighter in spirit. Mariah radiant with pride. Devon calm, firm, protective. You ready to head home? Rowan asked. Ms. Reyes looked at him with a small smile. Not yet. I just wanted to see this place at peace. Mariah stepped beside her. It hasn't felt like this in years. Maybe never. Devon added softly, you didn't just survive this school, you changed it. Ms. Reyes looked out at the courtyard again. No, she said. We changed it. Together. For a moment, all 4 stood quietly, the weight of the day settling into something warm. Suddenly, a group of students approached from below. They carried a handmade poster. The edges were uneven, and the colors were messy, but the message was perfectly clear. Welcome to the new Crestwood, a place where we rise together. Reyes covered her mouth, overwhelmed, tears gathering in her eyes. We made this for you, one student said shyly. You didn't deserve what happened. None of us did. But you inspired everyone to do better. She bent down, ignoring the pain in her ankle, and hugged them, something she never imagined she'd feel safe doing in this school. Rowan cleared his throat, his voice thick. All right, everyone. Get home safe. Tomorrow, we rebuild. As the students scattered, laughter echoed across the courtyard. Real laughter. Clean. Honest. Something Crestwood hadn't heard in so long. Ms. Reyes took one last look at the building, and for the first time, she didn't see the place where she fell, she saw the place where she stood back up, where an entire school stood back up. A school once broken. A teacher once wounded. A community once silent, all rising. Together, the camera would fade out on the sun sinking behind the school, casting a golden glow across its walls, as if blessing the new beginning unfolding inside. And Crestwood High, forever changed, would be remembered not for the cruelty that once ruled it, but for the courage that rebuilt it. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in justice, courage, and powerful storytelling, backhand index pointing right, subscribe to the channel right now. Your support helps us create more stories that inspire change, heal wounds, and bring courage to life. Like, comment, subscribe, and join our community of powerful storytellers. Thank you for watching.